right. I understand we have some adjustments to the agenda.
Yes, there's an adjustment to consent item 10.3P as in Paul. There was a revision to the extra duty spring coaching stipend. All trustees have received a copy of the handout, and additional copies are available in the back of the room.
Thank you so much, Laurel. Would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Boy, would I.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm sorry, there's one more adjustment. We pulled the litigation update from closed session.
Okay, thanks, Laurel. Well, we have on the agenda a special recognition of our student trustee, Abigail Highfield, who has a lot of responsibilities at this time of year and throughout. And should I just go ahead and say for the record and the webosphere that's watching out there that she was a fantastic student trustee, and she did the best updates on what was happening in the class and reports and what was happening in all the schools. And she always brought a lot of just creativity and knowledge. And I think she's got a super exciting future in policy potentially ahead of her because she's really awesome. Does anyone want to add to that? Yes, we certainly wish her well going forward if you're out there, Abby, watching us. Okay, next we're moving on to number 9, celebrating our successes. And we are going to be hearing from the Healdsburg High Art Department, the public art installations.
So let me try this and see if it's going to work. Well, it did something. Okay. All right, I think this is working. My name is Linus Lancaster. I'm the art teacher at the high school, and my friends are here with me. This is Miguel, and Jamie and Marcus, who are my art club AP artists and heroic sailors as of recently and so forth, who've been joining me on a couple of our adventures. And so I just wanted to share with you some of what we get up to. And there are more slides here, there are more projects and more things going on than I can possibly cover in 10 minutes, of course, so you're just gonna have to cut me off, please. But I'll go through quickly and skip a bit. So the things that you would ordinarily expect us to do are up here on display. This is the pieces from the AP art portfolios, advanced placement, of course, being the AP program, drawing and painting, 2D design, which is digital and photography, 3D, which is mostly ceramics. And so we had 4 students that submitted portfolios this year, although I had more in the program. And so this is Matthew Nielsen, pen and ink and charcoal, Miguel Figueroa, star ceramicist right here, who's been just doing amazing stuff on the wheel. This is Sierra Anderson, who is also a culinary student, a little bit of influence there going on, as you can see. Celia Voluton. Celia and Sierra are sophomores, which is kind of disgusting. That they pulled this off and submitted portfolios. It's very unusual that people do that this young. Christina Dominguez is a junior. She has joined the Healdsburg City Art Grant Selection Committee recently, which is kind of exciting. And this is, Vanessa Hernandez, Gianna Domenichelli, and then Lincoln Reuter and Austin Boaz, who are freshmen this year and yet are doing just amazing stuff. So it'll be really fun to see what they do next. Marcus Garcia, photographer, one of his pieces here. And Jamie has been very active in the art club and has joined us on a number of other things. So these images are all from the recent Emerging Artists Show at Healdsburg Center for the Arts, which has been a supporter of ours all along the years with scholarships, internships, and exhibit opportunities for our students. So that's what I refer to as the sort of daily bread and butter for our program. And those things are all wonderful. I've been teaching the elements and principles of design for 20 years now. I'm still really excited about it, but there's more to art practice than the elements and principles of design and meeting content standards. And to me, the big one is community engagement, getting our program off campus out into town, and that getting our students visible, having our program visible. And I think that there's a lot of community benefit in getting more art out into the public and to allow people to see that even very young emerging artists like these are doing amazing things. And so I think that it's really good for everybody that we're seeking as much exposure as we can get and trying to get our projects out there. So the art club was very active in helping out with the Healdsburg Arts Festival, which went off in August. That also turned into a collaboration with the Mayo Club and with Culinary, and it was a big success, huge amount of work. But the students really distinguished themselves leading up to that and on the day, volunteering and helping out with lots of positive comments from everybody. And I was very proud of what they did there. 100 of the ceramic students participated in the Healdsburg Scarecrow Festival, the third annual one. We actually ran it this year, and it was a tremendous amount of work, but we got the sculptures out in town again. I think that people generally enjoy seeing them out there. And we raised $600 for Reach for Home right at the outset of their project converting the L&M Motel. So that was a good, timely project to get involved with. One of my goals in having recently joined the board of directors for the Healdsburg Center for the Arts is to try to help get more science into the gallery scene in Healdsburg. And that is not only on behalf of my students, but just out of personal interest and wanting to see more happening than just, vineyard paintings, which are wonderful, but there's more going on than that. Recently, thanks to the new fresh fire marshal, who wasn't tired of me bugging him yet, we have begun to do dry fuel rocketry with Healdsburg Center for the Arts outside of school hours on campus. But it took us 6 years to get permission to do this. And those of you, if you've ever done a model rocketry, you probably got your rocket from the Estes Rocket Company, and they have grown quite a lot lately. There's been a renewal of interest with STEAM. And by the way, that stands for Science, Technology, Environment, Art, and Music, although I've heard an alternate for the M. Chris isn't here, so I can talk about this. Now, so the fire department was the big hurdle, and in all fairness, with all the fires going on, it was the last thing they wanted to talk about. RESIG is going to be a longer term kind of a thing, and the Estes now has this whole education program. And when I was in one of their workshops recently, I was talking to some other teachers across the country that do rocketry in their curriculum in school, and they are in public schools. And it was very interesting to hear the answers that they got, because I was asking them, how did you get your insurance company on board? The person from Philadelphia said, not quickly. And the person from Alabama said, well, down here, there are just some things we understand it's more polite not to talk about. So, it's a process, but we're going to work on it. But the one thing about these sort of forward-thinking and experimental projects is that they have ripple effects, right? And so as a result of my interest in rocketry, I was helping out with the Corazon Steam Festival one Saturday, and they had an air-powered rocket launcher, and I had always been dismissive of air-powered rockets because I thought they would be boring. But it turns out they actually fly really high. The launcher that we borrowed from Casey Shea at SCO was sending these paper rockets 100 feet in the air. So with our beefed up launcher and with a lot of finessing and experimentation with the materials, we're getting 200, 250 feet with these air-powered rocket launchers. And it's been a fantastic project for us. Lots of problem solving, lots of experimentation and so forth, and no pyrotechnics. You've seen this one, of course. Somebody at HCA made the suggestion to me that my students do something about the mile of glass out here. And when I came down to look at it, the first thing I noticed was the reflections of the clouds in the window. And coincidentally, we had just finished a pastel project of doing skyscapes. And one of the things about these is that they're not just straightforward cloud paintings using blue and white out of the box, but they were all done originally by painting the whole thing orange, which is opposite blue on the color wheel. And so given that they are opposites, they don't harmonize with each other, they fight. And they can do so in very beautiful and exciting ways, but you have to keep control of it as you go. And that clash between those colors creates a little bit more drama and effect, and it can even create the illusion of motion if you stare at it for long enough. One of my big goals recently is to try to get people, and specifically city council, used to the idea of art as infrastructure. It's not decoration and embellishment. It is infrastructure. It's substance. It's the skeleton of a healthy, vibrant, interesting community, I think. So my ceramics classes started doing these storm drain warning plaques. They're out all over the place, but the mass-produced ones are boring and invisible. Nobody pays any attention. So by redoing them and making them more interesting, it serves the double purpose of getting an important message out to people, but also getting more art out in public. And so most of the ones that we did last year were not usable because we had some technical issues. This year we've learned some lessons, and we'll get many more out of this current batch that we're working on right now. The students participated in the Climate Festival along with Lauren Hartman, who is doing a fantastic job at the junior high, by the way. She is a gem. When Ashera Weiss left, I was thinking, oh my gosh, there's no way ever that we're going to have anyone good there again, but she's done fantastic. So we did this. Our element was earth and dirt. So we made this dirt puppet, and the students were very experienced by now at making scarecrows. So we pulled this off, and we're in part of the festival. We organized a dance event called World Dance Healdsburg, which brought in a lot of groups, and we think was a big success. It was performed to an audience of about 100 people at the Raven. It brought in Ballet Folklorico and a Scottish Highland dance group, Middle Eastern dance, and some others as well. And so that was another thing that we got involved with. I know I'm running out of time, so I'll wrap up here. But this Raven Theater mural project was sponsored by Nez Tokugawa from Taste of Tea, which is next door. And, I teach visual art, but I wrote my dissertation on art and soil conservation. And so I get really excited about dirt. And one of the things that we were doing at school was working with an indigenous artist who was helping at Marcy Becerra, who was sharing some of her knowledge about native traditional plants with us. And that was the motivation for how this mural is proceeding, which is that it's skyscapes that gradate down into 4 different types of local dirt, soil. And at the bottom, they're sifted and put into the kiln and bisque fired, which brings out the red iron content. So we get color variation off of that. And across these, once they're finished, will be a montage of local native plants. And just to give you an example of the way that that's going to work is that if you go up to the top of the fire trails, the dirt up there is a variety called Henica loam, which is weathered from serpentine, which is the official state rock of California. It's very toxic to most plants. And the plants that grow up there are native and narrow endemics that can handle that harsh, toxic soil. One of them being a very rare species of manzanita called Arctostaphylos bakeri, which is unique to Sonoma County. And so this is a way to kind of celebrate not only the parts of the local ecology and local botany and so forth. I've got a lot more to show, but I'm going to end on this, I think, because I probably have exceeded my time already. If I Don't Make It, I Love You is the name of a production that was at the Raven Theater in March. That was a production that was made from a book by that title that was testimonials from survivors of school shootings. And so we have made a little empty desk for every one of the students that has been killed since 2018. The reason that we chose that date is that the production went up to 2018. So we chose it as a point of departure. Since we started this project a month ago, the number has grown. It's now 106. And so I have a group of students that is building them and helping me plant these out. We're going out tomorrow to put out 24 more. We're doing 106 total. And, you know, just to bring it home, half an hour ago, I was sitting in my classroom waiting to come down here, and somebody from HPD came and stuck his head in the door and said, hey, there was a call to Fitch Mountain of somebody threatening a shooting. And so it's not just Texas, it's here and it's every day. One last quick thing. Last summer, we helped write a grant for the 222 Performing Arts Space that has turned into a really wonderful collaboration between Marcy Becerra, Jendala, Hardison's studio here in town. Not only performance art, spoken word, music, and other things, but also Jendala's work with the students doing metalwork, sewing, and fashion design is moving from her studio into the 222 gallery. And it's turning into just a really wonderful collaboration. There's some of the Marcy students working with her. So I'll stop. There's just a ton of really exciting stuff going on. These wonderful young people are doing amazing stuff. I'm sorry to see them go at the end of this year, but hopefully they'll stay in touch with us and keep doing what they're doing. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Would the students like to say anything?
I think they wouldn't, except for Miguel, probably.
Nice.
Do I have to get closer? I'm not sure about this. Okay. So throughout my 2 years with Linus, or Mr. Lancaster, sorry, everybody calls him Linus, okay? I call him Mr. Lancaster. But Mr. Lancaster has been with me for a minute since my junior year. I always taken the interest of pottery in the ceramics classroom. I've grown my skills in, try to teach people that the pottery wheel is a second nature of art, in my opinion, because I love doing that. But every time I make a wheel piece, I always show Mr. Lancaster, because to me, every time I show him a piece, it's a show of my climbing to my perfection. And he is always there to encourage me, even if I'm feeling horrible or just terrible that day. He always says, this is a nice wheel piece. I'm glad to see more of this. But every time he walks past me, he always just is happy. And to see that encouragement from him and from other teachers really makes me care for these guys. And it will really hurt me to see these guys stay here and not come with me.
Okay, wait.
Thank you.
Wait, there's more. Mr. Lancaster, I feel compelled to say thank you. I work with a lot of students who struggle, and you've been a mentor, a safe place for them. You're not just an art teacher, and you're so much more to so many in the community, so I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Linus, students, thank you so much for coming and celebrating your successes this year. It was so cool to see all the projects. And honestly, I wanted to respond to every single thing that you talked about while you were talking, just because it's all fantastic. And thank you so much, students, for coming and talking to us and sharing pictures of your work and your experiences in art. It's amazing. I'm going to get super emotional because I obviously saw the tiny desks around town. And so I just want to thank you guys for putting that project together and for just putting that important issue front and center in such a sensitive way that was connected with the Ravens, performance. And I just think it's just such a great example of the way that you're working to integrate art into the community and kind of working across so many different mediums and so many ideas that are just creative and innovative, which is what art's all about, a form of self-expression that's kind of always something new. So thank you so much for coming and talking to us tonight. Anyone have anything else to add? All right. Well, we are moving on to less exciting things. Public comment on non-agenda items. The public may address the board on any consent action item or items not listed on the agenda. Pursuant to the Brown Act, during this period, the board cannot consider issues or take action on any item not listed on the agenda. Time is limited to 3 minutes per person. Do we have any comments? Okay. Then we're quickly going to move along to being entertaining a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
I'll motion. And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we're moving on to 10.1. Should it be 11.1? 11.1, business services update. Oh, wait, what am I? Student learning. Oh, wait, sorry, I'm looking at the consent agenda here instead of sorry about that. 11.1, student learning. Healdsburg High School new course outline proposal for 2023-2024.
Yes, thank you. Back to exciting things, high school things. We are excited to be bringing this forward to you. It's been a long-time goal of the district to have all of our students leave high school to be biliterate and to continue taking Spanish for all 4 years. So with that said, I wish I could, I'm not going to take credit for writing this amazing course description, but I would like to invite up Andrea up to tell you about this course description in the hopes of having it approved tonight.
Hello, I'm Andrea Ruiz. This is my 6th year teaching at Healdsburg High School. So when I first got to the district, like Amy said, my main goal was to get as many students through our entire Spanish program from all backgrounds, everyone, as many as possible. So that's why I think it was 4 years ago that I brought the original Spanish 4 here to add to the high school. At that time, we only had 1, 2, 3 in AP. And that jump getting from 3 to AP or just having another course that students could keep taking Spanish, like we didn't have that, didn't exist. So that's why I brought that forward then. Since then, Cynthia Guig and I from the junior high, soon to be at the high school, have redone Spanish 1, 2, 3. We've rewritten it, UC approved, submitted it. It's been going great. So just for some numbers, when I first started, I had like 3 Spanish 1 classes, and there was only 1 Spanish 3 class of 20 kids. So 6 years later, I have 3 classes of Spanish 3, and there's 80 kids. So just like the number of students continuing through our whole program is insane. Of those 80 kids in Spanish 3, there are 60 going on to the next level. And like that was not happening 6 years ago. So Spanish 4 honors actually came from the students. We always go through when they're signing up for classes. All right, everyone's taking Spanish 4, right? Everyone's moving on to AP. And there was a kind of a large group of kids that said, Mr. Ruiz, I can't take Spanish 4 because it's going to bring down my grade point average. And I was like, I don't know what that means. Well, our AP classes and our honors classes, you get the grade bump. It's out of a 5.0 instead of a regular class. And yours is the only one I'm taking that is not on that scale. And I was like, I don't even know this was a thing. Let me talk to some people and see what I can do. So basically 4 years ago when I brought Spanish 4 here, I didn't know that honors was a thing. I didn't know, I'm not from here, so that was all new to me. So basically I did a lot of research. There's a lot of schools in our county that have the honors, even 3 and 4. So it's kind of the same structure as it has been. It's just got that honors designation, which means kids get that grade bump. It's kind of a prestigious thing. I think a lot of our students that maybe wouldn't be in honors classes, this would be a huge opportunity for them to be like one of their only honors classes. And then our other kids, I think that's just such an attractive thing to them, especially like all the kids that are taking all the AP classes trying to like fight that grade point game. That's just going to like reward them for, continuing on for 4 years. So being in a 4th year, 5th year language class, like that's just rigor in itself. So it's just kind of a no-brainer for me to present that as an honors class. So the kids would be super hyped to get that grade point. I think we'd even see more coming into 4 and AP and continuing on. So it's just what I want to present to you guys today. So thank you. That's all I got.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so it's a minor revision, not necessarily new. It's adding honors.
So, Erin, for clarification, honors is replacing AP, or is that separate?
Separate. So some students can make the jump right from 3, and feel free, Ms. Ruiz, some can make the jump, mostly native speakers, from 3 into AP, but some even native speakers want that extra year, and AP, they can take Spanish as a college level class.
Yeah, and like Erin said, I think it's, of the kids going on, it's kind of only like our super, super academic native Spanish speakers that make that jump. And it's all of our other students that maybe haven't had that like home practice that a lot of the kids have, or our Spanish learners that need that extra year. So it's just like their opportunity to have that honors class if they're not quite to AP, or if they're on the track for AP, it's like a pre-AP, like same thing as pre-calc at our high school as an honors class. There's a lot of like the pre-steps. So just kind of want our department to be competitive with other departments and get all of our kids to keep going on like they have been. So.
And I will say, because they articulate so well with the middle school, we do have students who enter as freshmen in Spanish 2. So even if you're a non-native speaker and you're taking Spanish 2 as a freshman, you still could challenge AP Spanish as a senior. Right? There's still 4 years there. So you do Spanish 2, Spanish 3, Spanish 4, and freshman, sophomore, junior, and then you could take AP. And a lot of that, again, has to do with the work with Cynthia and Andrea have done to articulate. So just opening multiple pathways for students to become bilingual, biliterate.
And 2 more questions. Is the course outline for honors similar or the same for AP? What's the difference between the AP course and the honors course?
So the AP course has to follow like the AP curriculum guidelines like, to teach to the test, whereas in Spanish 4 you're not taking that AP test, so it's a little more you have some room for, it's still the AP themes, like I want it to be pre-AP, preparing them for that, but the end goal of the class is not to like take that AP test per se. So it's less like in the textbook and teaching to something rather than just like we're preparing them for that class, but also if kids end in Spanish 4, it's just like a higher level opportunity to keep speaking Spanish and continue on and get to that next college level or wherever, workplace that they're going next. So
yeah, for AP, we are given the course outline. We don't design it. So basically the College Board says, here's your outline, prepare them for the test. The Spanish 4, we can do more writing, we can do more cultural activities, with the idea that they would continue, that is a pre-AP class. They could take it as a senior or ideally continue in their studies as young adults once they leave our system.
Do we foresee any students shifting from AP to honors or honors to AP, or like some confusion from students and parents?
I think like a lot of our students need that 4 then to get to AP. It's not like one or the other really. It's like it's a stepstone. But I think there's like a chunk of really high academic freshmen native Spanish speakers I have right now that don't necessarily need that extra year of practice. They want to get right to AP. So they'll like skip it. But I think there's also another huge chunk that like, I'm not ready for AP. I need another year. So I wouldn't say it's like an either or, but I think a lot of our students would see like, oh, now this is an honors class. Like I'm going to take this and then I'm going to take AP. And honestly, that's what I want, because it's a bummer to see like a sophomore say take the AP class and their next 2 years it's like, we're done. We're not speaking Spanish outside of our house anymore. And I'm like, no, like we need to get you keeping in that setting, to get to college in the next level. So I think it might make some kids like slow down and be like, let me take more of the track. but mostly it's just to get a lot of our kids like to that next level, because there's that missing piece, I think, right now.
And their GPAs were getting hurt without the honors designation, right? We'd have kids, the seniors, not signing up for Spanish because it was going to hurt their GPA. And we're
Which,
that makes no
silly,
sense.
but it's like a real thing that
it's
they worry
it's a
about.
game, honestly, a bit that you play with the increased GPA.
And last question, can you jump, Erin, currently right now? Can you jump if you're taking Spanish 2? It was mentioned you're taking Spanish 2 at the junior high. Can you jump into Spanish 4 if you feel confident?
No.
No.
So it would be highly unusual. They screen all of our students in the middle school to figure out where they need to be placed, both in middle and in high school. We feel good, I would say, about our process that students are placed, whether they're a native speaker or not, into the highest level class that we think that they can perform at. So it would be the middle school curriculum is Spanish 1 over 2 years. So they start as 7th graders, take basically the first semester of what we teach in a high school in a year at the junior high. And then the second semester as 8th graders. So they complete what's equivalent to 1 year of high school over 2 years in a middle school. So they get more practice, more cultural, more fun, make the language fun, so then they can hit the high school in Spanish too.
Can native speakers, assuming that we approve this course outline, can native speakers as freshmen take this honor course?
Absolutely. And we have some, I'll give Chris Van Den Heuvel's kids who came from Cali, they took AP Spanish as freshmen. And Araceli's child. It's not, and that's why we want to make sure that we hit the kids at the highest level that they can perform at as young as they are. So it's not, coming from Cali, or depending on, what is going on with your reading and writing, we want to challenge kids to the highest level as early as possible.
And the idea now that we have Spanish at all our schools would be that students are coming into high school at a higher level in the future.
That would be the hope, and we can continue to look at that, right? There are programs where you can complete both Spanish 1 and 2 at the middle school level. It's not unheard of. It's uncommon, I will say, but it is a possibility given what we're doing, right? We're not a bilingual dual immersion program, but it's something that we can remain open to. The whole idea of more bilingual students faster at a higher level of proficiency.
Well, honestly, in my 6 years, we're already seeing it. There was a year where I taught 4 Spanish 1 classes, and now we have 2, because more are starting in 2 and 3, and we're kind of placing students better. So it's already happening, honestly. Thank you.
Cool. I think I don't want to put words in your mouth, Crystal, but I know one of the things that we end up hearing about just generally as board members is when the communication's not super clear about what the options are, or even if the communication has been made many times, the message is not always received. And it's just one of the things that we end up hearing about is sort of like if someone felt that they were directed towards something when there was other options, and just making sure that whatever, new complexity is added to the program, if there's further options, that those options are made really clear. And I can imagine that that's less, when in high school students have a lot of responsibility for their own choices and can find out about their own options. So you're not trying to bridge the gap between parents and students. But it does seem like because there's so many different paths that are available, and this is going to add another piece it's made clear in multiple places what the different options are.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And when kids come, first week of school, there's definitely kids that come into whatever level, and I'm you need to move on, or you need to come. So it's really the teachers, and I don't know, we do it every year, and it's good. So they definitely know their options, and we kind of, I don't know, I definitely counsel them within my class of what I know about them. So
that's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So this would be put back on the consent agenda next month for approval.
Okay, terrific. Thank you so much for clarifying so many aspects of the course. Okay, next we have Healdsburg Junior High School novel Ghost, and Erin will be talking to us about it.
Is that for the one we just did, or is that for? Oh, okay, great. So no slides here. This is all in the packet. Good to see you guys. Good to be back.
Good to see you too. Welcome back.
Thanks. So, we've been working really hard across the district to diversify our texts, diversify the stories that we read and teach. This is in that light. So the middle school, just like the high school, we have a core adopted curriculum, Study Sync, right? We use Study Sync grades 6 through 11. However, we adopted that many years ago in 2018. And all of the texts that are included in Study Sync are considered part of our core adoption, right? So if the novel is part of Study Sync, I don't need to come before you. But we're finding some novels that we'd like to teach to all students as part of the core curriculum that aren't part of Study Sync in order to diversify the stories and the authors that we read as core text. So the first one is the novel Ghost. This would be used in the 7th grade English Language Arts class. T.C. Peterson brought this forward as the instructor. It's a great book. I read this with my son, who's also a 7th grader. You can see in the equity and school culture section the themes of poverty, bullying, sports, friendship, overcoming trauma. It's a redemptive life story. We think that it will be much more relevant and a much more diverse story. The main character is an African-American young man. It's pretty low cost to the district to get a class, to get one for each of our 7th graders. So I'm here on behalf of really TC more than anything as the instructor of this course requesting Ghost. As per, what we always do, we have a discussion item, and then if it would please the board, we would put this on the consent agenda item in June. So we have a month to think about it. Any questions about Ghost?
No. This book is in my house, but I haven't read it yet. But I hear great things about it. And
you should read it. It's good. It's a quick read. Yeah. Okay, we can move on to the next here. Yeah, so similarly, this is requested by Jamie Kiff, who's the primary teacher of our 8th grade English Language Arts course. It is a text it's both a historical novel. It's about 3 different young refugees, and so you can read, I'd draw your attention to the equity and school culture section of this. So there are 3 main characters, a Jewish boy from 1938, a Cuban girl from 1994, and a Syrian boy fleeing war in just 2015. So this is a highly relevant book spanning, the last 2 decades of refugees told from the point of view of these young people. It's a great book for 8th grade. It's a book that really starts to introduce our students to some of the more complex themes that they'll start to challenge in high school. So we think it's a nice bridge to start them getting ready to think more critically about the larger world that they're in. It's inspiring. I've been listening to it. I had not read this myself, so I've been listening to it on audiobook, and quite impressed with this selection from Jamie Kiff. So I'm bringing this forward as a consideration. And like I said, we're just discussing now, and we would look for approval next time.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'd encourage you, if you have time or any questions, to connect with either of the instructors. I think they're both very excited. They apologize they can't be here. We've got one out of town and one with little kids. So I said, I got it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're moving on to the moment we've all been waiting for, 11D, right. The Local Control and Accountability Plan report.
I've been chastised if I don't go slow or go fast. They're going to pull me off.
Do we have a public comment?
Oh.
It's not yet. Okay. Oh, thank you. Sorry, Erin.
Yeah. So generally, we would like to do this in April, but we're here at May and we're doing things quick. It's compressed timeline. I didn't think it made sense to necessarily have an interim do this. And so usually we ask for school board input earlier in the April meeting, but here we are. So I apologize and appreciate that we're gonna do this. So just reminding ourselves what our vision and values are, right? The LCAP is the strategic plan for the district. It's really focused on high need students, particularly students who are economically disadvantaged, our English learners, foster youth. We really want to pay attention to our highest need students when we're thinking about our strategic plan, so they're top of mind. And I think our vision and values speak to that, that all students are thriving, and we really mean all students. So just reminding us of our vision and values. So timeline, or pardon me, the plan, it's 3 purposes, right? Like I said, the strategic planning document, it allows for educational partner engagement. So I know that Chris and some of our friends from the county office have been out talking with faculty and other staff in my absence, doing a couple more of these partner engagements. It is year 3 of 3, right? This is a 3-year document. This is the 3rd year. Generally, at this stage, we don't make major changes to this document, right? This is not something where we're starting with a new template or we're completely changing our goals. It's a 3-year document, and we're staying a course for much of this. Next year, we would do a much more broad, lengthier engagement process with our educational partners. So we would start earlier. We really look hard at the goals and the actions and services that we provide. But in all honesty, with me being out in year 3 of 3, the stakeholder engagement piece is, it's compliant and we're doing our best. But at next year, I think you're going to see a much more robust engagement process. We also take into account all the other engagement that we do, right? It doesn't have to be just about LCAP. So for example, I'm looking at the notes from the parent town hall meeting that happened in February with our English learners. We look at site council meetings or governance council meetings. And so all input is good input. We don't have to wait. It's not just the LCAP time. And it is an accountability and compliance document as well, right? SCO gets these and makes sure they're good before we ship them off to the state. So it is an accountability and compliance document. So here we are in May. So like I said, slight updates and revisions are happening. Debbie's office is super, super busy writing the annual report. So that's what you'll see in June is both an annual report and the actual LCAP. They've now brought along, so if we look in June, the local indicator, which usually would happen like in this other weird timeline, and it would happen in the late fall. The local indicator is things like, do we have all the curriculum that we need? Do we self-rate ourselves on facilities? So that local indicator will now ride with the LCAP. You'll see that those revisions and update in June. So we're busy kind of working on our documents, updating. Did the money we say that we were going to spend last year, has that actually been spent? Closing the books. So that's what's happening in terms of timeline. On this next slide, we have 3 goals: rigor, relevance, and community. The revisions are marked here. In 1.4, we consolidated that with 1.2 last year, so you'll see a strikeout. It seemed that those flowed together. So 1.4 used to say, provide differentiated instruction intervention services to accelerated learning and credits earned. We thought it made more sense last year to say, well, we're collecting data, monitoring data to better understand what we need to do for differentiation intervention to accelerate learning. So that change was made last year to consolidate. We always, less is more sometimes, right? Tight plans that make sense, that people aren't like wondering like, well, what page is that on, right? So we're trying to be really thoughtful and not have this really long document that nobody understands either. You all know that we've been working hard on our multi-tiered system of support, and we've been training the district office, we've been training site leadership teams. We've been collecting and monitoring data, but we're getting better at it, and I think we're going to get even better at it over the next couple of years through the MTSS framework. So it made sense to add that through the MTSS framework, the multi-tiered systems of support that we've been trained on, and are going to start working more heavily at the site levels in the next year or two to add that language. So those are just 2 updates for the actions on Goal 1. goal 2 and its associated actions. There's no changes, so staying the course, right? Instructional technology, providing professional development, college and career readiness is very important to us, opportunities to explore interest in active learning. This is a lot of our PBL work. This is our electives and CTE program at the junior high and the high school. We heard earlier about promoting bilingualism, and also a big lift within the district is supporting our big picture learning program at Marcy Becerra. So this is all continuing year 3 of 3, nothing new here in terms of actions. To the point that was made earlier through the arts and experience that I was engaged in right before I got here, improving school safety and climate, we hadn't called this out as a separate action. It's implied in much of this, right? If we have family engagement, student engagement, equity, social emotional learning, and a safe learning environment, of course, then safety and climate will be good. But we think given what's happening in our country and given what's happening in our communities, that calling this out as a separate line item made sense. So this is an adding 3.6 to school safety and climate made sense.
This might be like a really dumb question, but you're talking about school climate, not climate.
Correct.
Climate,
Yeah,
right?
not the air we breathe, the water we
I
drink.
did think the two things like didn't make sense, but I
like do students feel safe? Does
yes,
staff feel
yes.
safe?
Is the
That kind of
culture
culture and climate?
Is the culture safe? Are the social interactions safe? Right. So
Exactly.
you're talking physical safety and like emotional safety as well.
Exactly.
Thank
you. We did some AVERT training, and we'll be doing more training through the AVERT program and other school safety and climate work. And so it made sense to call that out. So they told me to keep it short and sweet, so this is my attempt. You guys have this in the board packet. You can look at it through your leisure, but this is the data that we've been collecting for many years, right? We call it terminal data, looking at the A to G completion rate. Happy to say, we're up nice and high in terms of rankings of schools with over 100 graduates. So we're small, so changes of handful of students can make our ranking go from 1 to 2. So looking at that number 2, we're kind of fight with, there's 2 or 3 other schools that we're kind of right in there with. I think you're seeing a little bit of the pandemic effect, particularly earning a 3+ on at least 2 AP exams. So you can see number 3 in the county overall, number 7 for our Latinx and Hispanic students. And so I did some deeper looking at that because that's alarming to me. Last year we were number 2 in the county on this. We did see a dip in Latinx students taking AP classes both in 21 and 22. I believe a lot of this has to do with the pandemic and access to internet, access to a quiet place to study. We are back on target in terms of the number of Latino students who just finished taking their exams this past week. So we have yet to see how they did on exams, but I'm confident we're going to see a jump. And this was a difference for us. We went from 2 to 7 by 5 kids not passing 2 or more exams. So that's 5 students that didn't pass 2 or more exams. So no, that's something that we're paying attention to. Something nice about having an interim, Dr. Lewis Gansler found a piece of data that I hadn't really, called out previously in the UC acceptance rate. So we're 3rd highest acceptance rate in the county. Only Tech High and Cloverdale had higher acceptance rates. So that's something to be celebrated and not a piece of data that we had looked at with that eye. So thanks, Dr. Gansler, for finding that. So, how do we get there, right? Those are pretty impressive data points. And so, when I used to go visit sites and still today when I go visit, I always ask them, what's your special sauce? Like, how'd you get there? What you doing that you're proud of? So, both at the district level and talking to the principals, nice list of things that, if somebody were to say, how are you pulling off this kind of data, particularly with large numbers of students who are burdened with economic disadvantage. and are learning both English and Spanish, which is a wonderful thing, but we know that it changes the nature of education for many students. And so, I would point to a lot of these things is the reason that we see the data that we have. And then in terms of community, here are the things I would say that we're proud about: supporting ethnic studies across the curriculum that continues. We finished up our last PK Institute with the high school families, small class sizes with an eye towards equity, inclusion, and belonging. So I'd say, these are some of our special sauce items for the community goal. And then in terms of what we're working on, so, again, you want to make it very focused. We don't want to be chasing a jillion initiatives. So in rigor, really paying attention to learning and better implementing the MTSS framework by monitoring our data, supporting all students through a growth model. And so what we mean by that is, if you're an advanced student and you're taking Spanish 4 as a junior, we want to make sure you're taking AP Spanish as a senior. So making sure all students are being challenged. Our students who are struggling, making sure that we're providing the support necessary. So through this growth model, kind of going away from this idea of no child left behind, well, of course, but every kid's different, and we want to make sure that we're growing every kid. PBL refinement in K-5, people that know me, PBL is my heart. It's part of what I'm writing my doctoral research on, is an increasing PBL at the junior high and high school has been something that has been a little slower on the uptake. So I'm not ready to put that away. We'll continue to kind of chink on that. Refining our elective and CTE programs. You're going to see some massive refinement in the June board meeting. We have a host of new elective and revised elective classes at the middle school. I'm so pleased. I got back from my leave and I was like, holy cow, you've been busy, girl. And so has our staff. So we're going to be excited to present some new course outlines for your review from the junior high. And then refining the big picture, of course, remains an area in terms of building community, fostering student voice, interest, and their culture, all students' culture, fostering family engagement, and then this last piece that we want to refocus on in terms of school safety and climate. So this is where I get to stop talking and listen to you all. And I'm going to take a few notes, but this is recorded, so it's always nice to go back. So just opening it up to discussion amongst the board in terms of strengths, and the way I always phrase this is like, what's great? What would you be sad if it went away, right? If as a board member, you come back in a couple of years after your time is done and you're like, what, that went away? How did that go away? And then the other is opportunities for growth that you see, things that you want us to be focusing on. So this is open to discussion.
Well, I'll start. One of the strengths for sure, I think, is the AP offerings. I mean, we're a small high school, but we have a lot of AP classes, which is really great that we have so much choice. So I think that's a definite strength, and want to see that continue. And again, I want to see enrollment of our students in those classes. I want to see Latino students in those classes. But I also want to see that students are passing the AP test, because a lot of our kids take the class, but then they can't pass. So there's a disconnect there. So I really want to make sure that our pass rate improves.
Gotcha.
And the other thing is the project-based learning, right? I mean, I think that all kids benefit from that kind of instruction. It's much more meaningful, engaging, oftentimes more depth to the instruction or to the learning experience. And so definitely want to continue that for all students.
I agree with Araceli. I actually really liked your lists a lot. But I agree with Araceli on project-based learning. I feel like, I've seen the benefits for my kids, and I've took a class at Sonoma State on school and society this semester, and I did a lot of reflection on my own education during that time that, is not necessarily material to this meeting, but it is to this particular topic. And that I think one of the things that I came away from as I thought in detail about my own education, even though it was a long time ago, was that we didn't really start to get into meaty interdisciplinary things until the end of high school and the beginning of college. And that was really where I felt like, true learning and critical thinking was sparked for me, and school became less about memorizing things and learning facts and more about putting ideas together, solving problems, coming up with connections, having those connections relate to my everyday life. And I think one of the things I was thinking about was how project-based learning has done that for my children at a much earlier age. So even if it's not quite as engaged as it is when you're kind of a more accomplished and seasoned student with more information in your brain and whatever, it still is the sight to me of the kind of spark and interest that really makes school worth kind of investing in and being there for, and then also translates into, kind of everyday life skills and the things that you need to do when you're outside of school. And I think, again, that was just reflecting on my own experience, but I feel like there's the opportunity for those connections to be made and that critical thinking to happen, all the way from the beginning of school until, higher education. And project-based learning is really where it's been at for my kids, for sure. So, I'd love to see us consider, continue to sort of think about ways to integrate. And I think that's my only comment for now.
Again, this doesn't have to only happen here in this, environment, right? You can email me, you can email Chris, in other forums, right? This is just a public, here's our list, please refer back to this. Yeah.
I am really interested in I know that the MTSS work is barely just begun, but I really want to see more clarity in terms of what the expectation is for students. Like, how do we know students are on track at first trimester? How do we know that kids are on track second trimester? How do we know when kids need to receive intervention at first trimester, so that we're doing that early prevention? I don't know if we have that clarity yet in terms of, regardless of who the teacher is, this is the expectation, this is the assessment we're giving, this is the score we're going to give based on this performance level. So that kind of clarity in an MTSS model is really important. So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, thank you. Agree.
I think, the fact that we've looked at a similar document for the last few years, we just don't have as much. And I also think, that in many ways we are, listening to, and that's an ongoing process to really assess kind of, where we think our areas for growth are. And along with, it's really heartening to see some of the data that you put up there and just to be reminded of those successes. So,
Thank you. And like you said, it's an ongoing process. I think we're constantly referring back to our goals and our actions, and it's not just something we put on a shelf and we dust it off this time of year. The engagement process is happening all the time, whether it be in the board meeting or in governance councils or in grade level meetings with principals. I meet with the principals when I'm around, just about weekly. So it's not just a one time, and then we say, okay, we'll get back to that strategic planning next year.
I mean, I see that as the board president and at the board level the whole time I've been on the board. I think there is a lot of, continuing conversation about goals and where we're at and looking at data throughout. And I'm always interested in whatever's happening at all of the other meetings that you're getting information about, because I feel like we can learn a lot from hearing from everyone at every level.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I think we have a public comment. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I would like to focus on the last goal, community, and I would say that for strength, I would add having multiple opportunities for students to engage after school. I think that has been a strength for our school district, especially after COVID. I would also add that both the district and individual schools and teachers and staff have been doing an incredible job communicating what the students are doing inside of the classroom, especially during the time where parents were not able to come into the district. So posting on social media, sharing with the parents, having classified staff talk to parents during pickup and drop off. For opportunities, I would add that ethnic studies has been slow. Incorporating ethnic studies, kinder to 12th grade, has been a slow process. I'd like to see an increase of staff participation in those trainings. I obviously agree with what Rose and Araceli mentioned as well. School climate, I would say I'm interested in bringing back, and I know that there's a conversation I spoke to Chris about bringing Safe School Ambassadors back into our school district. It's been really hard for some students, not all students, but for some students and even parents, I would say, to integrate back into a community at school. And we are seeing the effects. We're seeing the effects on people's emotional, social, and learning. And so I don't know how to solve that issue, and I'm interested to hear from students about their experience, particularly, I would say, middle school and high school. But yeah.
Thank you.
All community.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Erin.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a public comment on 11.2. Do we want to do reports first or? Okay, yeah. So it's time for reports. And first we have, do we have a HEF report tonight? Okay. And our HADA report?
Good evening. The LCAP document that's coming to you tonight for looking at, the teachers are asking to have a seat at the table for the development of the LCAP when it starts again. The document controls how the dollars are spent on students, and our input is by Google survey and then a presentation at a staff meeting. And we would like to be involved at the beginning to have input on the focus for our students based upon their needs. A survey is not enough. A staff meeting presentation is not enough. Teachers need to be able to talk about their ideas and concerns in the development of the LCAP. It controls the money, which controls where it goes to support the kids. Governor Newsom set aside $1 million for teacher training and requirement that schools screen all children through kinder through grade 2 for risks of dyslexia and other reading disorders beginning in 2025-2026. So that's an important thing coming up. I hope we have plans on that. Communication. The teachers are working very hard to help the kids learn and to grow, and communication is important. And we, the teachers, seem to be out of the communication loops many times. Negotiations are going slow. We seem to end up in the same situation each year. We have one more negotiation meeting, and that's Monday, and we hope we can find common ground to agree upon. It has been increasingly more difficult to find available days. HADA would really like to start the negotiation cycle sooner, so we're always not in the 90 activity days of May when only 20 days are there. I recently read that money is coming back to Geyserville Unified School District, AVS, and HUSD. It's exciting to hear that money that was taken away due to the fires is finding its way back to us. The school board visits. Teachers would love to see school board members visiting at the sites to experience all the wonderful things that are happening in the classrooms. So, food for thought. We have reduced the Healdsburg High School math teachers by 1, which means that class sizes are larger. So, adding kids to these classes does make them bigger, and our LCAP states that we have smaller class sizes. As I've said before, I'm proud of HUSD teachers. They're constantly adapting to the needs of their students. They have been subbing in each other's classrooms all year long, taking students in their classrooms because subs are not available. Sometimes the reading teacher is canceled and the kids don't get their special reading time. Teachers are doing what needs to be done to make it work, but the amount of sub hours our teachers are doing is a concern. HES, it's rapidly coming to an end, and Flag Day celebration is coming. Fitch Mountain pool day field trips and promotion ceremonies are in progress. Healdsburg Junior High I think we're almost done with CASP testing. Pool day for Healdsburg Junior High for 6th and 7th grade has been planned. The 8th graders are going to the epicenter. They're very excited. Healdsburg High School, end of year prep and boxing for the teachers who are moving out. It's keeping our teachers really busy at the high school. Teachers would like to focus on a few things, not a lot of new things. Let us work with a few things that we have and make sure that they're working and determine over time if this is something we want to continue or change. And thank you for all of your help and support. Thank you for supporting our request for needed materials. Thank you for reaching out to ask us questions. Thank you for your leadership. If you have any questions, I live at the junior high. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robin. Okay, do we have a CSEA report tonight? Okay, and Abigail is not here today, so. Oh, okay, great, yeah. Yay! Thanks, Debbie. Do any trustees have reports? I actually have like 7 things to say in my report. I'll be taking my full 10 minutes. No, I'm kidding. I just wanted to highlight a couple of different things that have recently happened or are happening before our next meeting, because there's so many exciting things happening in the 1,000 days of May and just before the 1,000 days of May as we wrap up the school year. I went to scholarship night, and that was my first time going to scholarship night, and it was a mind-blowing amount of money that was distributed to the students. It was completely moving. And when I was telling my mom about it, she was saying, oh, it's like when you have a new baby. Like, it's just that beautiful moment of celebration for the exciting future that's ahead and all of the love and support that comes from the community historically, currently, to support these students while they head on to their next, whatever their next chapter is. So it was really, really thrilling, and I just saw so much pride in the students and in their families and their teachers and all of the scholarship awarders, which I'm sure is the wrong word for that. The Spring Fling is happening at FMC on Friday, one of my most favorite events of the year. So that's going to be super exciting. It looks like we've got amazing food and community and lots of things going on. And it is open to everyone in the community. So I'll be there. My kids will be there. Come on down. Let's see. The Run for Funds happened last Friday, and Mindy, who's out in the audience, was one of the amazing organizers. This was the fundraiser for the Healdsburg Junior High School. And they just did an amazing job organizing. I was at one of the corners. Everybody ran by. It was awesome. And then at the end, the kids got drenched in different colors, which caused problems because we had a party to go to right afterwards. So it was like a quick shower situation and then tons of color in my van. But that's no problem. It was awesome. And it was really great to see that event come back. And it was just such a fun, wholesome, cool thing. So thanks to everyone who put that together. And then last, I just wanted to say a general thank you to all the teachers and staff and administrators for everything that you guys have done this year. Because it was, to me, feels kind of like the first regular year since we're back from COVID, when we just don't have the same restrictions. And I know there's been many, many, many challenges that everyone has risen to. I really felt like for our family and from a board standpoint too, it is a massive accomplishment to have kind of made this year happen as seamlessly and beautifully as it has. And also with the leadership that we have sitting out in the audience, how many new changes are underway, how many great things are being conceived of and happening, and great relationships forged. And I just see a lot of strength, and that's wonderful. And so, lastly, congratulations to everybody who's getting, all of our students who are getting promoted and graduating. And we don't have our next meeting until after all the graduations and promotions happen, but it's a whole bunch of exciting hard work and learning that's gone to getting everyone to the next step. And, we all recognize that. So, yay. Thanks. I am happy to skip a break. Is anyone else happy to skip a break? That's cool. Okay. Thanks, everyone. So I neglected to read the public comment on agenda items paragraph, which I will do now prior to calling up my public comment, who's an experienced public commenter and probably knows all the rules anyway. But members of the public have the right to address the governing board on any items of interest, provided it relates to the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Your request to address the board will be heard at the time the item is being discussed in accordance with Board Policy 9323. Individual speakers shall be allowed a total of 3 minutes to address the board for a maximum of 20 minutes on each subject matter. Blah, blah, blah. This isn't relevant because we just have one. Do I have to read it all? Because we only have one comment, so we don't have to worry about the 20-minute limit. Anyway, so we are on to 11.2 school business, and we have a public comment from Robin Doherty. Oh, sorry. Should the item come first? Generally? Okay. Sorry, Robin.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm bringing forward a resolution of the Healdsburg Unified School District to adopt the 2023 multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. This was began with the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000, which requires a mitigation plan. So we have grant eligibility for pre and post disasters. SCO is the lead on this mitigation plan, and all of the districts in the county are part of the plan. It's been over a 2-year process. There's been representatives from all districts that have been part of the plan. They've been meeting regularly, and we are moving forward tonight with the plan. You saw the plan in the full plan was in the packet. It's hundreds of pages. But basically, you're determining where the hazard zones are, and the plan has determined earthquake zones, flood zones, all of the different hazardous places in the county. And now we will move forward working on this plan regularly. Biannually, we'll keep meeting and updating it and coming up with new ideas and ways for districts to be prepared in case we were to have a disaster. Is there any questions? Okay, I think you should probably hear the public comment maybe before we adopt it.
Okay, we can hear our public comment. Thank you, Robin.
Okay, so that hazard plan is a lot of pages. So my only comment is that when I was reading through all the pages, it lists people in different school districts that they're the contact for, and some of those have moved on to a different spot. So it might list John Smith at Roseland, and John Smith is no longer there. So I know this is going to go to FEMA, right? So maybe taking a look, I don't know if it's SCO's job to clean that up or if it's our job, but there's some incorrect contact people. If they were contacted in a state of emergency, they no longer are there. That's my only comment.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Debbie. Okay, and next we have 11.3 personnel. Oh. Okay. Can I please have a motion to approve 11.2A Resolution 2325?
And I second.
All in favor?
Sorry, it's a
It's a roll call
school.
resolution.
All right, so President McAllister.
Aye.
Trustee Lopez Jimenez. Yeah. Vice President Lopez Pardo. Trustee Romo Flores.
Okay, moving on to 11.3A, Declaration of need for 23-24.
All right. So I have the last item. So this is an annual item that comes to the board every year. It's the Declaration of Need for Fully Qualified Educators. So this is the 23-24 Declaration of Need for Fully Qualified Educators. And so I just need a vote. I don't know if anyone has any questions, if anybody needs an explanation.
Does anyone have any questions?
No.
No, nor do I.
I move to approve the declaration of need for the 2023-2024 school year.
And I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, it's time for Board of Trustees. Well, we already we reported, but if you have any additional reports, comments, requests for information. Okay, thanks everyone. So we do not need to return to closed session tonight. Our next regular board meeting is Wednesday, June 21st, 2023 here at City Hall. The deadline to submit agenda items is Monday, June 5th to complete an agenda request form, and Wednesday, June 7th for all backup material will be due. Is there anything else, Laurel?
I think I moved those dates up a week.
Oh, you
so
did?
They'd be a little later.
Oh, okay. Do you know what they are, or is it?
I can pull up a calendar really quick. Yeah.
Oh, those
That's
are the
what
dates
happened.
for the special.
So yeah,
Okay.
the deadline to complete an agenda request would be Monday, June 12th, and all backup materials would be due by Wednesday, June 14th.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And our meeting is adjourned.